I've got to get myself back in focus. Okay, so welcome everybody. We're here at Waterstones in Derby for the Inner Brilliance Outer Shine book launch. Thank you so much for coming. So I'm going to kick off with the agenda because everybody wants to know what's going to be happening. Quite a few people have already said, so come on then, what's happening? So I'm going to begin with the thank yous, and there's a reason why I'm going to be doing that, but I'll explain in a moment. It involves you, Mel, an old story with you. Oh, we'll get to that in a moment. So then at 7 o'clock, and I'm also going to do a reading as well from the book. I'm going to read the conclusion because I'm not naive enough to believe that everybody reads the end of a book. Is that fair? Although I heard from someone today that they did actually read chapter 10, so that's brilliant. And then we'll move on. And Roz, this is the lovely Roz Watkins. I was saying Roz is actually a proper author with like a series of books. All right, Dee, how are you doing, Chuck? Now, Roz is the author of the D.I. Meg Dalton series, and her books are actually on sale as well tonight. So if you want 2 books signed this evening, and your first book is The Devil's Dice, isn't it? So it starts with that. So we're going to do that, and then there will be a book signing. Those of you watching at home, I'm probably going to switch you off then because it'll be a bit boring. And to everybody else, we'll be closing at 8 o'clock. So I am going to begin with the thank yous. So yes, Melanie King. Do you remember years ago, we'd been to a Havening conference and I was sat crying in your car. And it was to do, you'd said to me, well, why can't you ask for help? Why can't you ask for help? And that question made me burst into tears. Can you remember that or not? Vaguely.
People cry in my car a lot.
Yeah. And I said, it's a development area. I really need to work on it. I need to be able to get comfortable with asking for help. And so that's why I wanted to start with the thank yous, because I just cannot thank you enough for being here, because this is me asking for help and you've been part of my team, and it's just amazing the support that I've had. So I really appreciate the fact that you're here, and I'll never forget the fact that you're here as well. So I'm going to kind of do the book acknowledgements, but I'm going to do them in order of how the book kind of came to fruition. And I want to start by thanking people at Havening HQ, because without Havening, this book wouldn't even have come to fruition. Not only did it change my life, but it continues to change the life of my clients, some of whom are here today, aren't you? But that's another story. But what I really wanted to do, and my intention with this book, was to blow the lid off people not feeling good enough. And I could have written a book about people not feeling good enough, but to be honest, it's not trendy, is it? Imposter Syndrome is. So that's why I picked that subject. And for me personally, and those of you that know me well, I procrastinated for 10 years over writing this book, which is ridiculous. And again, it was to do with not feeling particularly good enough. And where Havening comes in is that I do childhood work with people. So we go back to past events. And for me, that was age 5 at school. At best, I was average all the way through school. I can remember my mum's look of surprise when I got 5 GCSEs. She said, "You got 5? That's amazing." But at age 5, I was in remedial class, and I can remember feeling very different. And I would say probably I've got undiagnosed dyspraxia, dyslexia, dyscalculia. Something is quirky with my brain. And so that's how I ended up, as I say, in remedial lessons. But as I say, I want to blow the lid off people not feeling good enough and being able to feel good enough. So it's time for a bit more audience participation. So if you've experienced havening, what I want on a count of 3 is another woohoo, okay? So you ready? And your biggest woohoo. So you ready? 1, 2, 3. You see, it's audience on the waves. Lots of people are using havening. So moving on. This is where, there she is. I haven't got my long distance glasses on. I'm looking at you, Sarah Parkinson. So I want to thank Sarah Parkinson, partner at Brown Jacobson. Oh, thank you. Sarah gave me a right royal kick up the arse, didn't you, love? We were working together and we'd gone out for lunch, and Sarah has a lovely way of not just being direct, but being hilarious as well at the same time. And she looked at me and she said, so come on then, when are you going to write this book then? And so I was like, yeah, okay. And I procrastinated a little bit more, didn't I? But it was the kick up the bum I needed. So thank you so much. And I cannot work with clients, helping them to achieve amazing things and and not do stuff myself. And in all honesty, I got a little bit comfortable and I was ready for a change. So I will always be grateful for that, Sarah. Thank you. Next, I'm going to look into the camera for this one, because this is for my book coach, Debbie Jenkins. Here's to you, love. She said she'll be watching. This morning, I was busily typing to her this morning. I said, bloody hell, the link's wrong for the reviews. I need you. Yeah, don't use the links on the bookmarks, folks. You've been given a bookmark tonight. They don't work. That was this morning's panic. But she has been absolutely amazing. And again, it was a serendipitous moment. She connected with me on LinkedIn, and I dropped her a message and said, it might be worth us having a talk. I think I've got a book I might want to write. And so it proceeded from then. And we've never met. Like some of the folk in here this evening, we've done everything on Zoom, but I would consider her to be one of my very good friends. So thanks, Debs. I know you're watching. And then I'm going to move on to the book endorsees. And I realised how much I was asking of you, some of whom are here this evening, when one of the endorsees' wives said to me over Sunday lunch, she said, you do realise he's printed your manuscript off. It's like that. And he's dutifully going through it. And I thought, yeah, I am asking a lot of the endorsees. So I'm gonna thank you all individually. So first of all, Professor Damien Hughes, he's not here. Does anyone listen to his podcast? I know we've got a few people here. The High Performance Podcast, #1 podcast in the UK. Written many brilliant books himself. So Damien, if you're watching, I doubt he will be, but it's worth it, isn't it? I really appreciate it. He's such a gentleman. Then Andrew Bidge from Fisher German. He was the one with the manuscript. And then we've got Sarah Walker Smith from Shakespeare Martineau. We've got Dino. Woohoo! We've got Dean Jackson from Who. We've got Alison Brain. Where is she? I haven't got my glasses on. There she is, little hand. Ali Brain, founder of Hannells. We've got Sarah P again. And we've got the lovely Roz Watkins. So thank you all, endorsees. Right, it's a bit like the Oscars. I'm nearly done. I also want to thank, I refer to them as my crack team. It's not the right terminology, is it? Yeah. You're supposed to call them beta readers, but I refer to them as my crack team. So the crack team, and I remember actually having a conversation in my office, actually, Dean, I don't know if you remember this. I said, I think I'm thinking about writing a book. And there was a sign on the wall and it said something like, it's your day to shine. I said, I'm thinking about calling it something shine. And you said, do you mean like it's your time to shine? That'd work. And, you know, and it's all these little snippets. And those of you that were on the crack team, you really helped to hone this title. You know, you were the ones that gave me feedback and, you know, your thoughts, your ideas about the concept. So I want to thank in particular those that are here tonight. So we've got David Nelson. Where is he? Can't see him. There he is. We've got Dan Jarvis. We've got James Willow. And you have been like my personal cheerleader over the last month. Thank you very much. I even got offered a lift in a Porsche for this evening. So that was... Yeah. Mr. Alan Jones, I saw you creeping at the back. Alan is my longest client, 20 years roughly. Is that fair? It is, yeah. You've been very quiet tonight. Yeah, well, I was late. Yeah. Davina Ripton, where is she? Woo! There we go. Ben Brain, there we go. And we've also got one very special lady here, Susan Clark. Let me tell you about Susan Clark. Susan Clark bulk bought books, handed them out to people, and there is talk of setting up a group, isn't there? So that they can go through, because the book isn't for the faint-hearted. You've actually got to do work. And so I thought that was a brilliant idea. And I'll again, so touched that you're here because I know you've travelled a long way. Right, then I'm going to thank my clients. My clients are, it's like I operate a secret club, isn't it? Although I'm saying hello to quite a few of you today, aren't I? No longer a secret. But without you, I couldn't have written or given colour to the book. Now, before you start, look at, who was it who said to me earlier, have your clients, oh, it was you, T, wasn't it? Have your clients spotted themselves in your book? And I said, well, the thing is, when you write, I've worked with a lot of people. When I counted up, it was over 10,000 people. When you're a trainer, you speak to the masses. And so the characters in the book are what you refer to as composite characters. So it's a culmination of lots of people over many years. So I said, no, nobody said that they've spotted themselves. So I'd like to thank also Waterstones for having me, for Red Olive, Charlie, for catering. And just a little reminder as well, if you're buying the book, buy it from here, please, because they're hosting us. And if you want me to write a personal message, maybe you're buying one for a friend or as a gift, we'll have Post-it notes so you can tell me what you'd like writing on the book, and I'll do that for you. Right, we're at the final hurdle, folks. I want to thank my family. So I'm going to start with you, Mr. Reed, the sexy dude in the new suit. Not in front of the children, not in front of the children. So Mike really is my knight in shining armor. We met, he was 35, I was 21. Woo! He was, my mum accused him of sexual harassment. Privately, she said, "Ooh, that boss, it's sexual harassment, it is." And I had, mum's like, oh my God, totally found out. I had total imposter syndrome going on when it came to my relationship with Mike. He was hot to trot at Nelson's. He was. All the girls used to flutter their eyelashes at him. And one day he rang me and he said, "Can you go up to my office, please?" And I said, "Will I need my notepad and pen?" And he said, "You won't do for this." And so I go upstairs and he says, look at his face. he says, I can't help the way I feel about you. And in that moment, you know that big lottery finger that goes like that? It was like that. I was like, are you talking to me? In my head, and metaphorically, I'm kind of turning around going, what, you've picked me? Yeah, he is my soulmate. He has been absolutely amazing. The book has become the bloody book. And he said to me, you're not going to write another, are you? But seriously, he is the best leader I ever worked with. And he set fire in my belly because he believed in me, and he believed in me through his actions. He's a man of very few words, I'll be honest. Trying to get a compliment out of him is like trying to get blood out of a stone. But I always felt really trusted by him. And I think sometimes he probably thinks, I wish that fire would go out in her belly because she's doing my head in. But you've been an amazing husband, and thank you. And then where's my Daisy Do at? There she is. Daisy May, Daisy Do, Doodles. The thing is with my Daisy is she teaches me to be a better human every day. And that's because she has just got such a sweet little soul. She's such a good person. Just as an example, the other night, sat on the sofa, she trots downstairs. Mum, you need to change the passcode for extra screen time on my phone. I've still got it. And that's the kind of girl she is. So thank you, my darling. And then we've got my sis. Where's my sis at? Yeah. How are you? Are you hiding? I've been filming you. You've been filming? Oh. My lovely sister. My sister's come all the way from Spain today. And she's only here for a very short visit, but it means the world to me. And she was person number 3 to get my manuscript. So Mike got it, my book coach had it, and my sister was like, please, please. I was like, okay, and gingerly handed it over. And she made herself read it to the very end again. But she has just been a brilliant cheerleader all the way through, and I will never forget your support. So thank you, my darling. Then we've got the digital whiz kids. We know who you are. Matt, he is my stepson, but I Freudian slip all the time. I talk about having children. There is Matt and there is Lyd, and then my beautiful daughter-in-law, Lou, and my lovely granddaughter there, little O. Isn't she lovely? The digital whiz kids basically looked at my brand and they said, it's confusing. And you need, you not only is your brand confusing, but your website is as well. It needs to change. And it was the kick up the bum I needed. So thank you so much. And for the authoring advice, Matthew Reed. So yeah, I really appreciate it. Right, Mother. It's your turn. Look at her head down. So what are you going to say? So my mum is a really strong, independent woman. She was a single parent bringing us 2 girls up. And unconsciously, she taught us to be strong women as well. If you want to run your own business, you can run your own business and be a single parent. If you want to relocate, you can relocate. And, unconsciously, well, my sister and I have done exactly the same. We run our own businesses and we've relocated. So thank you for your strength, but also for the freedom you gave us to just be who we want to be. So I'll always be grateful for that, Mum. Right, I need you to raise your glasses in a minute. This is a bit of a difficult one. We've got 2 lovely men missing this evening. And, here we go. Yeah, so the 2 dads are missing. My dad and the lovely Kenny boy, so Mike's dad. And sadly, they passed away last year, 7 weeks apart. Can you believe it? You can laugh. It's all right. No. But my dad, he would have come here under duress, actually. I'm actually an introvert. I know it's hard to believe. I could quite happily do the trainer's hat thing. But he would have been skulking around the bookcases or outside having a fag, dying to get to the pub. And he would have had his hair cut special, and he would have got a special jacket for it. He would have been privately very proud. I know he would have been. But yeah, hated having to come. And then Kenny boy. He was the happiest, funniest old man I've ever known. And he always had something lovely to say. In fact, on my wedding day, I don't know if you remember this, Anne, you two were heading down the corridor, and I was there, and it's before I got married and gone downstairs, and he went, "Wow, you look amazing." and it was just the little pep I needed, in that moment. He was a brilliant salesman, and if he was here tonight, he would have been selling more books, wouldn't he, Anne? He would have been wheeling and dealing and having chats with you. So here's a toast to the two dads. Two dads. Thank you. Right. Right, I'm going to read the conclusion, and then Roz and I are going to get chit-chatting. So, it's only short, don't worry. So, I went for a coffee with a friend this morning because I was on the home straight with this book. She was telling me about how another child had been cruel to her daughter. She reflected on how the children used to be in her daughter's class when she first joined in reception. So innocent, so pure, without baggage. The girl that had been bullying her daughter was such a sweet little thing, full of joy, bounce, and general excitement about life. As she'd matured, these states have slowly dissipated. She's developed an attitude with her friends, and teachers have become surly. Her whole demeanour has changed. Her mouth is downturned. She glares at people in the playground as opposed to the old cheeky greeting, calling my friend by her first name. We didn't do that in the 80s, did we? Call your mate's friend by mother's name. When my friend addressed the matter with the school, the young girl who'd been causing trouble said, "I'm sorry, I've got a lot going on at home." She's 10. The poor kid had been kicked out by a mother and was now being looked after by another relative. I'm not excusing her behaviour, I'm empathising and wondering how hard it must be for that child. She must feel rejected by both parents. Even before she was rejected by them, she was the child that was never allowed to attend a friend's parties because her mum couldn't be bothered to drop her off, or turned up intoxicated on the one occasion she was allowed to attend. She was always the one who stood out for the wrong reasons in the school photo, wearing the wrong colour uniform. She was the one who played the piano beautifully in assembly, but didn't have any relatives to appreciate her performance. It sounds as though the kid has had it rough. My heart goes out to her. She's had a lot to deal with and is not shining on the outside because she probably feels rotten on the inside. This child will grow up into the type of adult that will eventually end up working with, never feeling good enough, not feeling worthy of basic care and attention, constantly having to prove that she is enough the way she was made, constantly proving through work and her relationships in life, overextending herself, which eventually steals the joy out of work life. There are varying extremes of bad stuff that bend people out of shape and stop them from being the best version of themselves. Old stuff creating drag on their ship, preventing them from shining in their work life, directing them towards destination grim as opposed to destination joy. I hope that by now you have your personal blueprint for fixing the things that dull your shine and know how to steer yourself back to destination joy. Here's a reminder of the antidotes to imposter syndrome, workaholism and stress. And we're going to... I had to do my best reading voice then. All of a sudden, I felt about 5 reading out in class. Yes. So the next bit we're going to make. You need to come in shots. Look, we've got to be on camera. It's really confusing because we're like back to front on here. So this is the bit where we just start talking about the book, actually, and we're going to start looking at some of the antidotes to imposter syndrome. So over to the lovely Roz.
Hello. Well, firstly, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations on this book. And yeah, I mean, I know it's amazing. You've been talking about it for a while.
Ages, yeah.
And it's fabulous to see it out there, and it's such a good book. Hi, everybody. My first question is, what possessed you to write a book? Why would you do such a crazy thing?
Yeah, no, that is a really good question. Well, as you know, so you and I trained as coaches, didn't we? Together.
We did.
Is it about 20 years ago?
No, it can't be that long.
When you stop counting, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you know, typically remember the typical thing was, you become a coach and you write a book and da-da-da. But I didn't really have a good reason to write one in the early days. I knew I had an ambition to write a book, and I can remember, in fact, I'd gone to see Damien Hughes, funnily enough, and it was his book launch. His first book was Liquid Thinking, and I can remember sat in the audience. It was a CIPD event, and we had a bit of a giggle actually, because the audience was very cool and didn't participate very, very much, which was unusual for the branch actually. And after he finished, his microphone was still on.
Dangerous.
We've all been there. And he said, they were a bit of a hard audience, weren't they? And I was like, your mic's still on. And so that's how we got to know each other. But I can remember watching him and thinking, and that was his first book launch. And I can remember thinking, wow, I would like to grow up one day and be like that. So that was where the ambition kind of started. But then we need a reason to write, don't we?
Definitely.
And as you probably know, I got sick probably about 12 years ago, to the extent where I thought my future was going to be in a wheelchair and in bed, and it was pretty crappy. And it felt really selfish getting better for myself. But there was a moment when I watched Daisy and her dad dancing in the living room. I'm still there, lank hair, in my pajamas. And I thought, do you know what? I need to get better for these guys, because I want to dance around the living room with them. So I then started to collect more tools, basically. And I was an NLPer, neuro-linguistic programming. I did practitioner, master practitioner, trainer. Still hadn't found the thing. You know what this is like, don't you?
I do. It's always like, I will be good enough to write the book after the next course.
Yeah, that's it. No, that's exactly it. And I remember, when I got my degree certificate just down the road, for it's postgrad certificate, wasn't it?
Yeah.
For coaching. And I can remember being stood on stage thinking, this will be the moment when I feel good enough. No, still don't feel good enough. So it was, and then I became a hypnotherapist, an EFTer. That's happy. Do you remember we went on that weird course?
Yes. Yep. We
went on. It was called Integral Eye Movement Therapy, and you do all this in front of people's eyes, don't you? I don't use it, do you?
Not at all. And I can't remember why, but we just couldn't stop laughing for the whole course.
Not like us at all.
No.
And then I found Havening, and slowly but surely I recovered from ME. And then all of a sudden I had a story to tell. But I think there's also something about, and quite a few people have said this to me, well, what about legacy? And I've never really been one for that. But what I've realised is that over time, when you work with people, you end up with a system. And now I've got that system in a book. And so that's it, really.
Cool.
That's how it came about. And Havening is that easy to use. It's like, just get it out to the masses. You know what I mean?
Because it's not really out there much, is it? I
No.
tried to Google it and see if there was a book about it, and there wasn't really. Now there is.
Yes. Well, there's one called The Past is Always Present, which was written by Ron Rudin, and I think there are a couple of other books, but there's not one with a main title of Havening.
So just can you just tell us a little bit more about your book?
Yes, sure. So it's about imposter syndrome, and if you're wondering what the connection is with imposter syndrome, workaholism, and stress, so I ended up with ME, or chronic fatigue, because I was a workaholic. And do you remember we used to meet while we were coaches? And I can remember us having a conversation about, I just seem to run everywhere, even though I work for myself. I run even when I'm making a cup of coffee. And can you remember that conversation?
Yeah, I'm not like that anymore.
Just a lovely writing shed having. The reason I ended up with ME is that, so without going into all the gory details, I contracted an infection. And because I'd weakened my immune system through being so stressed, through working, in fact, lovely Anne Perry, I can see her. Right, she's like, don't talk to me, don't point at me. I remember years ago going, it's just come back to me. It might even be in the book. I think it's in the book. And I went to your beauty parlour, and your therapist said to me, "Are you stressed?" Because I got like a beard of stress spots here. And I was like, no. But it was because I was perpetually stressed, and I didn't realise I was stressed. So when we overwork, and I was overworking because I was on this cycle of trying to prove I was enough. So always, adding more and more qualifications, degrees, no, I still didn't feel enough. And I really had to sort myself out, as I say, when I got sick. So the connection is, when we don't feel like we're enough, we overwork. When we overwork, we get stressed. And I work with some amazingly successful people, and I'm talking top 5% of, income earners. And they'll sit in the coaching chair and I'll look at them and I'll think, you're absolutely amazing. And yet they still can't see it themselves. So, and the thing is with imposter syndrome, it affects 70% of us. So that's a lot, isn't it? At some stage in our career. So we're all at risk of having it. But I think imposter syndrome goes broader. I think it's not just to do with our career. I think it can be to do with friendship groups. We can feel like an imposter. It can be when I learned to ski partner. And ski partners, yes, digital whiz kids. We felt like biffs, didn't we, on that first holiday? Do you remember? Yeah. We had all the gear. It was cheap gear as well, wasn't it? Like, you got all the new skiers with like the special offer on from Waterhouse with the same outfit. And, you can feel like an imposter with hobbies as well, can't you? And so I think it goes broader than just the career.
Okay.
I think and also I've heard people experience it in families as well. So, yes.
So how just so we know what we're talking about, how would you define imposter syndrome? How do I know if I got imposter syndrome or not?
Good question. So there's an element of, it's about not feeling good enough. Often people are waiting for that tap on the shoulder, to be found out. As I say, I can remember Mike giving me a project. In fact, no, you invited me on that cricket initiative, didn't you? And I was in the toilets, age 21, and the girl that had the hots for him was outside, and she said, "What's that piddly Estelle Jenkinson doing on the programme?" As if I wasn't feeling like an imposter already. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I've been found out. I shouldn't be on this programme. So it's a sense of being found out. It's not being able to acknowledge our achievements and our strengths, and to own those. And that's actually one of the antidotes, is to own and recognise your strengths, your talents, your abilities, and not in a public way. Don't come and stand on the balcony and, we're not going to make you do any of that, but just to self-acknowledge the great things that you're good at.
So do you think does it tend to make you a high achiever? If you've got, do you keep doing like the next thing and the next thing? I'll be good enough if only I could achieve the next thing. So there is a direct correlation with imposter syndrome and performance. Right.
So again, what they've identified is that when we feel like an imposter, it drives our performance on. But the difficulty is we can get to a tipping point, can't we, sometimes when, and often I will say to clients, when is enough enough? When have you got enoughness? When do we go, I've made it, I've got that badge, I'm safe, I'm secure. And so yeah, it's absolutely a driver of performance, but it's that tip. In fact, I nearly called the book Tipping Point for that reason. So yeah.
So is the book's obviously aimed very much at people who feel that they are suffering from imposter syndrome?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I mean, when clients come and work with me, they don't say, very rarely, although I tell a lie, more recently, because the book's been out, people have said, I'm coming to you for imposter syndrome. But typically people will come because they're stressed, or the joy of work and life has gone, they've lost the mojo or whatever else. And it's often just because they've been working too hard and they've ended up stressed.
Okay. So what are some top tips for...
Top tips, right. Okay. Yeah. Well, one is obviously havening. That's dedicated to a whole chapter. In fact, the first kind of half of the book is leading towards havening. In fact, just rub your hands like that. All of you, just rub your hands. Are you cold? No, you're havening. That's it. That's how, so you can stop. That is how simple havening is. You rub your hands and you think about an event until the event just dissipates. Now, I use it for all sorts of things. I still use it now. I used it for grief, actually. Last year was shitty. I'm telling you, it was really hard last year. And I went through, I think when I saw you, Sarah, I was like that hysterical, I'm fine. I'm all right. I'm getting through this. I'm fine. I'm talking about grief. And then in the end, I just thought, you know what? I'm going to cheat. I'm going to haven this. I'm going to fast forward this process. I'm going to get rid of some of the triggers. In fact, only the other weekend, we have a cronky old boat up in the Lake District. And we've been struggling, haven't we, been going up? And we've realised the reason we struggle when we go and visit the boat is because we've got associated memories of both my dad. So every time we went to visit my dad, we would stay at the boat. And also with Kenny Boy. We wanted Kenny Boy on the boat and we didn't make it because of lockdown. And I'll let you into a secret. Mike will kill me for this. We did a family haven the other day. Just to get rid of it, and then if we still feel crappy about the boat when we go up next time, we will sell it, won't we? But the point is that we can release ourselves from things that are bothering us very simply. So havening is one of the antidotes. One of the other antidotes is to manage our inner dialogue. So I have seriously, and I refer to it as your inner captain in the book. So I've seriously been managing in my inner dialogue over the last few weeks. There's a horrible book review place. What's it called?
NetGalley.
Authors hate it.
Authors beware.
Yeah. And a few weeks ago, I got a 1-star review. And this guy had said something like, this book is rubbish. I can't be doing all the work. And she's even suggested you join a Facebook group, that's just too much work. And it's like, well, when do we ever achieve anything great without work? So definitely inner dialogue was going bonkers then. But actually, if we collapse the stuff in our past, so particularly in childhood, you'll find you're going to get a reduction in inner dialogue anyway. And I can remember there being a point where I thought, do you know what? There's nothing going on upstairs. No inner dialogue, no voice. It's just quiet. And it was a real novelty. So managing your inner dialogue, I use affirmations. They sound a bit woo-wah-wee, and clients often will roll their eyes at me when I'll go, I think we should do some affirmations. And I'll be honest, I avoided them for donkey's years, but apparently top men and women use affirmations. So they get up in the morning, they give themselves a boost. And I use it in particular, if I'm wanting to set myself a goal. So I'll set affirmations in relation to my goal, or I'll set them to suppress a limiting belief. So that's another way of dealing with it. But also, you'll know with the book, you get a free journal and a free workbook, which you download. And there is a journaling process which helps you to manage your inner dialogue as well.
Excellent.
So,
are we okay for time?
Yeah, well, we can start wrapping up whenever you're ready.
Okay, so one last thing then. Do you think you're a cured workaholic or recovering?
Yeah, I would say definitely. It was interesting, actually. So in the book, there is a questionnaire that you can complete to test whether you are a workaholic. In the olden days, I would say, and this is what Havening does for you. It moves a compulsion, like I must work, otherwise I'm going to get anxious and stressed, and I don't feel comfortable unless I'm working. And anything else. So any other behaviors, it might be perfectionism. It might be always having to be right and having a fear of being wrong. So it shifts things from being a compulsion to prove like you're right or you're wrong, or a compulsion to overwork, to a choice and choosing whether you work. And so for me, are there times when I work hard? Yes, there are. But I would say that's a choice. And my work life, the first thing is I've never been as happy since I've done all this work. And my work-life balance is so much better. So I would say recovering, but I would say, I don't know. What do you think, Mickey?
I think you're right. It comes back to the word choice that you do still have times when you work really hard, but it's not like you feel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Right.
Well, thank you so much. It's a fabulous book. And I think anyone who's survived the process of launching a book without having a nervous breakdown is obviously in good emotional shape.
No.
So
No,
congratulations.
No, thank you. I just want to thank Roz. It's all right, I'm not doing another long speech. Roz has absolutely been my mentor throughout this. She was the one who said to me, come on, are you going to get yourself a proper publishing deal or what? Not in those tones.
No, like that.
But she did say, what you peeing around with, get, self-publishing. Come on, get yourself a deal, didn't you? Do you remember that?
Maybe.
Yeah,
something
no,
a little bit like
that's how it was in my head. I was like,
well,
yes,
I
okay.
didn't think I thought you should consider all your options.
No, well, I'm really grateful. And we were saying the publishing company's done an amazing job, and it has been the right decision. So, Roz has been, we even had discussions about pens. This have pen to use when you sign a book, and so thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So live streamers, we're going to go because we're going to do book signing now, and it's a bit boring for you. Thank you for watching. Take care.
Bye.